All right, we only are going to do a couple of small things this week. It's not going to be anything big. I think we're all pretty tired, pretty ready to be done. So we just have a couple little things, some concepts I'd like to introduce you to, and it's not going to be big and hard, okay? Let's take a look at what we're doing today. I'm here on code.org, and I'm going to go ahead and get to the game lab. This is going to be done in the game lab like we've been doing. This is about, these exercises we'll do this week are about a real common computer programming concept. It's looping, controlling how many times something happens over and over. And we haven't done a lot of that. We've used the draw loop, which just goes forever. But I want to show you ways that we can kind of control this. We'll just do something simple today. All right, so here we go. What I'm going to ask you to do, and there's a handout that is, I send it to you and it's posted and all that good stuff. It kind of leads you through it. But this is going to involve some variables and a while loop. It's called a while loop. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here I might go ahead and rename this. And I might just call this while loop number 1. All right. And mine's just going to kind of draw some random radius circles, but it's going to draw a certain number of them, and I'll show you how this all works. It's going to start with some variables. So I'm going to go to the variables drawer, and I'm going to bring over the var command. Remember, when you're going to create a variable or declare a variable, you have to use the var command. It goes up here above the draw loop, and I'm going to call this first one counter. Now, you wouldn't have to use the word counter, but we need something to keep track of how many times we go through the loop, and that's going to be the purpose of this variable. I'll show you how I'm going to use it here in a second. I'm going to set it equal to 0. Okay, now another variable that I am planning on using, and this is where it could get a little bit different for you, but I'm also going to bring a var command over here, and I'm going to set it for radius. And for right now, I'm just going to set that radius to 0. I just need the variable to be created. It doesn't matter that much what it's equal to at this minute. And again, I'll show you why here in just a second. All right, so those are the two variables I'm going to use. And by the way, you can totally just steal my idea today and do the same thing I do. Or when you see this, you could branch out and get a little bit creative if you would rather. All right, now, next up. Now, this stuff's all outside the draw loop. Inside the draw loop, that's where we kind of get to work here today. I'm going to go to the control drawer, and the only thing we've really used officially in class has been the if block. But today we're going to use this while loop right here. It's the second item down, and I'm going to say while, and I'm just going to bring that over. All right, now a great way to translate this, you want to set up a situation where something happens as long as a certain condition remains true. All right, and the translation that I'm thinking about here is the word while could also be said as long as. So we're going to set something up. I'm going to have the computer perform this operation as long as or while counter, to spell it right, I did not, counter is less than, and I usually use the less than. There's other ways that you could set it up, and a lot of you who have programmed before have other ideas there probably. But I'm going to say while counter is less than 501, and I don't know, you may not be even able to tell here in a minute why I did 501 instead of 500, but there's a reason. All right, so whatever is about to happen is going to happen as long as the value of counter is less than 501. All right, well, now let's make a few things happen. I'm going to go to the variables drawer, and I'm just going to bring over an x equals. Now, be careful here. I'm not bringing over the var command. That's not what I'm doing. I'm bringing over an x equals, and I want to set, I said a minute ago, I set the radius at 0, but I didn't really, all I really had to do was create the variable. I didn't really care what it was equal to at that point. All right, so I'm going to come along here and say, let's make the radius a random number. And I'm going to set it, and this is where you can branch out and try different things, but I'm going to set my range of random numbers anywhere between 5 and 350. All right, now I'm going to go to the drawing drawer, and I'm going to bring over a stroke color. And I'm not going to use a certain, I'm going to go to the RGB model. And I'm going to click off of that because you might be able to guess this. What I want to do is I want to make the stroke, I want to make it random. All right, so instead of plugging numbers in there, I'm going to bring over 3 random number blocks. Do that. And then real quickly here, 0, 400, no, I'm sorry, 255. I was thinking the dimensions of the screen and not the range of the colors there for a second. All right, so I want to set all those from 0 to 255. That gives me the full range of colors. By the way, that's another thing you could play around with and make it something different. You wouldn't have to use that range of random numbers. All right, next thing up, I'm going to bring over a stroke weight. Now this could also be random, but I'm just going to pop in a 10 right there. I'm going to make the stroke weight. That's going to be the thickness of the outline. So I'm going to make a 10 there. I think I'm also going to bring over a no fill. Now again, that's something you could play with. You could try it without the no fill and see what happens there. But I'm going to do it with a no fill. All right, now it's finally time to draw something. I've been playing around with a radius and a stroke weight and a fill. All right, so now I'm going to bring over an ellipse command. And I'm going to say 200, 200. And I'm going to plug in, instead of having those 400s there, this is going to be the variable radius. That's why I set up that variable. I want all these circles to be different, random sizes. Now, again, this is where you could get a little bit creative, because if I plug in here radius, that means the horizontal radius and the vertical radius is going to be the same. But what if I did something like this? On the second one, what if I did radius and then radius divided by 2? Right? You get a different result. So this is a day that you can spend 10 minutes playing around and make some kind of program, and I'm going to be happy. I'm not going to fuss at you in the last week of school. My goodness. All right, so I've got that. Now, here's the other thing that goes along with counter loops. This says I want all of this to happen in here as long as the counter is less than 501. We set up here at the beginning that the counter is 0. And all of this stuff in here should continue to happen as long as counter is less than 501. Okay. But if we don't do this next step, we're going to get caught in one of those, what's called an endless loop. Because the value of counter will never get any bigger, and this loop would never end. So what I have to do now is I've got to go to the variables drawer. I'm going to bring over the x equals, not the var. Don't bring over the one that declares the variable, just assign the variable. So I'm going to bring it over here and drop it in right after the ellipse. And it's going to be one of these things. Counter equals counter plus 1. Just increase the value of counter by 1. And so as it goes through that while loop, it'll go through that while loop over and over and over and over and keep increasing the value of counter. How long will it keep going? Well, until such a time as counter becomes greater. It'll keep going as long as counter is less than 501. Once it becomes equal to 501, it's going to quit. Or once it becomes more than 501, it's going to quit. All right, so it's not a super fancy program, but here it is. I'm going to run it, and bingo. There we go. Now, you don't really see there's 500 circles is what happened. And you don't really see them pop on. It would be a lot more fun if you did, but you don't. But if I reset it and run it, it's going to look a little bit different every time. If I reset, run, reset, run, reset, run, it's going to look kind of different every time because of the randomness, right? There's random radiuses involved. There's random numbers on the colors involved, and so it will look a little bit different. And there are 500 circles because the while loop is controlling the number of circles. And when the counter value gets higher than 501, or I'm sorry, as long as the counter loop is less than 501, then it keeps going. But if that's ever not true, then it stops. All right, so really that's it for today. And see, the thing is here, do you have to do ellipses? No. You could try something else out of the drawing drawer. You could get a little creative if you feel like it. Do you feel like it? It's almost the end of school. I don't know how tired you are, but you could do something different, or you could just do something very much like what I did right here. I'm okay either way. All right, off you go. Fist bump.